Alright, hey everybody, Ope here, Ope Gaming, and I've been gone forever. Weeks, month. Work is crazy, working 76 hours every other week or so. That's just the role of healthcare right now. But anyways, I just wanted to come in and talk to you guys a little bit about what's going to be coming up this weekend. I know I've missed a lot. Missed in terms of I haven't made a video on it, but I am actively playing the game very much so. So let's get into the event that's going to happen this weekend. They're going to be doing a 10 times summon event for these champions out of Ancient, Sacred, and Void Shards. And let's go over them here quick, shall we? So the first one's going to be Leorius the Proud. And I'm just going to give my thoughts on this. I think he's an okay champ, but I don't think he's worth pulling for. There's definitely better options out there for you. Attacks twice with A1, has a 60% chance of placing decreased defense. Damage inflicted increased by 20% if the target has less than 60% HP. Cool. Attacks all enemies 2 times. This champion is immune to stun, freeze, sleep, provoke, fear, and true fear when the skill is not on cooldown. That's cool. This one has A3, Awesome Roar. Attacks all enemies, has an 80% chance of placing True Fear debuff for a turn. Before attacking, has an 80% chance of placing a Weaken. And then he has this passive True Grit. Its active ability instantly places unkillable on him for a turn when he receives a fatal hit. His passive damage, as the champion's HP decreases, his damage will increase. So 1 by 1. I think he's okay. He's got a crit rate in all battles. There are other Void legendaries that do that. I was talking to my clan mates. I would argue that Skull Crown is just generally better in Arena when you're playing than this guy. That's my personal opinion. I don't have him, but I have a Skull Crown, but I've seen videos on him. I've seen people work with him. Skull Crown is more accessible, easier to book, and you can gear her, much easier than you can this guy. You can give her no speed and put her in a blender comp with a Senesha or 2 Skull Crowns, and boom, there you are. You're off to the races. And they were arguing that this guy's good in Clan Boss, but, there's other cheaper, better options than this guy, especially if you've been playing when the Ninja promotion started. That's definitely one of them. Ninja's better than that guy. But, if you want him, go ahead and get him if you're close to your Mercy or your Mega Whale Crack and whatever have you. This next one, though, might be worth pulling for, but here's the problem I have with the non-Void Legendary times 10s. If they're not just by themselves a single thing, like with Calvalax, which I didn't get after like 23 shards. I got 3 legendaries, 2 were non-dupes. None of them were game changers, really. And one was a dupe. I got Cupidus, Errol, both non-dupes. I was happy for that. And then I got a dupe Saito, which with the dupe system coming out, I'm not too upset about, but I really wanted Calvalax. And after 23 shards, I was a bit bummed out and burned. And then I saw the other content creators, they didn't get anything either, really. So I was like, oh, all right, whatever. But Mashald is definitely a game changer, especially for my account, end game. This guy does a lot. He was a Vault Guardian forever. He was super trash. He was a meme. And they buffed him. And the buff they usually give to legendaries is like an overbuff, where they're bottom of the scrap heap, and then they go right up to the top, and it's amazing. Like Draco's another one. Canderfon's another one. Those were awesome. But let's just take a look here quick. Bloodsucker, attacks an enemy, heals them by 30% of the damage inflicted. Will then attack enemies that are under leech debuff. That comes into play in just a minute. Tornado, this is his, my opinion, best ability. Places increased speed and crit damage on all allies for 2 turns. And then it places True Fear and Leech on all enemies for 2 turns. There you go. He can help CC waves in Doom Tower, dungeons, faction wars, and he actually hits very hard. And this is on a 3-turn cooldown. It's effectively on a 2-turn cooldown because he gets an extra turn with this. It is crazy. Mashalds are annoying. I really hate fighting them in arena, and I don't much care for him in tag team. And his third one is Open Wounds, and this has a high damage multiplier. Attacks an enemy, 8% chance of stealing a buff, books up to 100. Before attacking, he'll place heal reduction on them, and he also places 2 continuous heal buffs on himself. Damage increases by 50% against targets that have no buffs. He slaps. He's pretty great. And he has a damage in dungeons by 34%, which is pretty high. But yeah, Mashald, great. If I had all the money in the world and, I was a fat cat rich guy, I'd be pulling for Mashald because I don't have one. But there's 2 other legendaries that are non-voids in this mix that I do not want to... This is what's forcing me not to pull, really. Well, and that we have our fusion coming up next week. Or right the week after. Either way, you should be preparing for your Halloween fusion. Save your shards. Save your gems. Bank energy in your inbox. Do all these things. Level up food right now. You got nothing else to do. Why are you doing the events? The events aren't really paying out to anything that you're going to want. That you're going to be able to easily achieve. So save your resources. Scrooge McDuck it right now until fusions. That's generally how I feel. Or guaranteed events. Nobel, he is... I've seen people argue he's probably the worst legendary in the game, and I'm probably going to have to agree. This guy, if you pair him with Mashald, he's pretty fun. But other than that, by himself, he's just poop. Poop, poop, poop. He's 92 speeds, not great. His first one, Smell Fear, attacks an enemy. 40% chance of decreasing the duration of 2 random buffs on them by a turn. If they're under a Fear or True Fear, has a 65% chance of decreasing the duration of all of the target's buffs by a turn instead. 60 will then book out to 75, and then it's 50 if they don't, have True Fear or True Fear. Harbinger, attacks an enemy, will ignore 3% of the target's defense, fills his champion's turn meter by 25% after the attack. If the target is under Fear or True Fear, decreases the cooldown of Dismay by a turn. And here's Dismay, his A3. Attacks all enemies. When booked, it has a 100% chance of decreasing each enemy's turn meter by 20%. If there are any enemies under Fear, True Fear, will also fill this champion's turn meter by the amount of those enemies those enemies that they lose. So that's kind of cool. He can kind of cycle through his abilities in his turns, but he's like way down here, and then you got Mashald way up here on crazy shit that they can do. He also has a passive. Whenever an enemy's turn meter is fully depleted by this champion, right? This guy, not... who's that black barbarian girl? I use her for my faction war. She's great. You could use her, but you can't. But anyways, it has to be by this guy. He'll place a True Fear on him. 50% chance, books up 75. If that was a 100% chance, it'd be a little different. He might see some play then for waves, and if the clause wasn't him putting it down, it would be whenever their turn meter gets depleted. If they change that whenever an enemy's turn meter gets depleted, he puts a True Fear on him. Even keeping this, booking it out to 75% chance, just keeping it that way, he'd see a lot more play, I think. And a little bit higher on his speed. But, he's part of the reason why I wouldn't pull for this. And this is the last legendary, it looks like, that's going to be in this 10 times. I don't have him. He is solid as a legendary. He is capped an anti-legendary because that's what his kit revolves around. I wouldn't pull for him either. I don't need him. If you're an endgame account, you don't need Nobel. You don't need Elder Skarg. If you don't have a Mashald, considerations might be, but you have the fusion events coming up and all that. That's going to be in a week or 2 weeks, That's the thing. So let's go over Elder Skarg. He's an attack-based champion. Pretty decent base attack, 1630. His base speed is very good, 105. Crit rate's normal, crit damage 63% base, not bad. He is A1, tied to steel, attacks an enemy, places increased speed on him for 2 turns if this attack is critical. Places a 30% chance increased crit rate on this champion if this attack is not critical. It's kind of cool, he tries to fix himself, like a real warrior. He swings in, he's like, oh, bounced off the armor, try a different angle, swing a little harder. I like that. Hunt the Marked. Attacks one enemy 3 times. Places an extra hit for each buff or debuff on the target. Can place up to 3 extra hits. So he can hit somebody 6 times, I guess, is what it looks like. He'll place an HP burn for 2 turns and True Fear for 1 turn on all enemies if this attack places all 3 extra hits. Steals all the buffs from the target after the attack. Hunt the March is pretty good. I mean, this is very solid. Elder Skarg, it's Elder's Clarion. So he'll place increased defense on himself for 3 turns, places fear on all enemies for a turn, places true fear for 1 turn on targets under block damage buffs, places decreased speed for 2 turns on targets under shield buffs. These debuffs cannot be resisted. That's pretty awesome. And also places provoke on legendary champions for a turn. I mean, this guy's kit's pretty solid. He has an aura that's, I think it's the highest crit rate aura in the game, but it only counts in the arena for 30%. And then we have his passive Kingslayer, who will receive 15% less damage from legendary champions. And then he will inflicts damage equal to this champion's attack when attacked by legendaries. The extra hit cannot be critical. That's kind of a bummer. You wish these procs and extra chances would be critical, make for some really fun interactions like with Inquisitor Shamael, who we'll talk about next. But yeah, Elder Skarg, Nobel, Mashald, like it's a 2 out of 3 pretty good, right? Mashald's amazing, no doubt about that. Elder Skarg, I would say he's like an A tier legendary. Nobel, right down to just A, B, C, D, E, and then fucking F. They just need to rework him a little bit, and I think he'll shine. I wouldn't even use him in Faction Wars. That's just how poop he is. And then Leorius the Proud. Do you really want to bust your Void Shards? Well, there's going to be something coming up here in a minute on this event that I'll talk to you about. So we'll go to Inquisitor Shamael. Nope, wrong one. It's part of the Sacred Order. He's very good. Flat out, he has 2 abilities with a passive. First ability, attacks an enemy, 50% chance of decreasing the duration of a random buff on the target by a turn. Every time an enemy places a debuff on an ally, uses this skill against that enemy, these counterattacks only deal 50% of the normal damage and cannot be critical. That kind of sucks, but when you think about him reducing buff durations on people and like they're trying to debuff you, you're just like, pa-pow, pa-pow. Like you're punishing them. And it's like a war of attrition at that point. He does take quite a few books, not too many actually. What's this, 7? And that's 3, so 10 books. That's actually pretty good. He's not hard to book out. This is his like coup de grace. Cowl the Horrors. He will attack an enemy 3 times. He will ignore 25% of the target's defense. Will ignore a further 25% for each buff on him. And he then places True Fear on all enemies for a turn if this kills somebody. So you just end up setting him up with like a Duchess or a Siphi or something. And you use him in Doom Tower waves and he just mows people down. And True Fear the rest of the wave. Get that CC, get that control. Because as you know, if you're going through Doom Tower normal or hard, the key to getting past the waves is putting out a lot of control and buffing your own team, getting them like block debuffs, strengthen, increased defense, continuous heals, but then also having somebody like, the Queen, Seer, she's amazing, stripping that and then nuking every wave as you go through. But if you don't have a Seer, there are other options, like Inquisitor Shamael here. I've seen people use 2 of them going through waves in the Doom Tower. It's also amazing in Arena, especially with this next passive, because we talked about Mashald and Elder Skarg. His Dauntless passive. Each critical hit fills his turn meter by 7.5%. Whenever an ally receives a Fear or True Fear debuff from an enemy, this skill will instantly remove the buff or the debuff, and the ally's turn meter goes up by 15%. He gives your team Fear immunity, True Fear immunity, right? That's amazing. And now we start to think, well, which Doom Tower boss gives Fear and True Fear? Dark Fae. I've seen people try to run him in their teams and get past Dark Fae, and it works to a degree. I think you have to manual it, but it works. And then he has increased actually in Doom Tower by 60. That's solid. This guy, all around solid. Stats are pretty solid. Base attack, a little on the low side, 1288. Base speed, 101. And then everything else seems to be standard. Ooh, defense is so low. This man, he's just leaning into the fight. But he's very solid. So should you pull voids for him? I don't know. Maybe. Let's keep going, though. Pharsalas Gravedirt. Pardon my French, but F this guy. F this guy right in the hole. When I was busting for Calvalax, I got 4 of these guys. I got 1. I was like, oh, he's new. Okay, all right. Whoop. Put him right over into the he's new bin. And then I got 3 more out of Sacreds. And I was just like, why couldn't one of these be a Taragi the Frog or something? I don't have a Taragi. I'd love a Taragi. But he looks cool. That's one thing that Raid really accelerates at is the look of these guys. I mean, just look at this. There's got a dude here. He's a Night Revenant kind of guy. And he's got, see, there's even depth to this. There's depth to the shield where the candles fit in. That detail's awesome. And it looks like, the wax is melting. So aesthetically, he's very cool looking. He looks like a gothic horror version of the candlestick from Beauty and the Beast, if I may say so. But let's go over his abilities. His speed's low, 90. He's a defensive champ. Base defense is 1.1. It's okay. His base HP is pretty decent, 1800. Nothing else to really speak of. Resist is at 45. Accuracy is base 10. His first ability is Grass the Grave. Attacks an enemy, 20% chance of placing Provoke for a turn. Places decreased attack for a turn if the target is under fear or true fear. Cool. And you can buff this up to 40% chance when you attack somebody. Not really worth it. Let's keep going. He'll attack all enemies and books up to 100% chance of placing heal reduction. Not bad. And it books down to a 3-turn cooldown. And then we have this Coffin Bulwark. This is where I have problems, alright? Oh, okay. Ready? See this strengthen symbol? See that little strengthen there? That should not be on epics. That should be on rares and uncommons, if uncommons would ever place a strengthen buff. Epics and legendaries deserve big strengthen buff. My opinion. They are cut above the others, obviously, in many ways. That should be one of them. Just like having an epic putting a baby decrease attack on somebody. Wrong. Big decrease attack. Oh, I'm going to put a baby decrease defense. Wrong again. You need to be putting big decrease defense. Almost like you're coaching them. You're like, wrong. More push-ups. Get that out there. But he'll place a shield on all allies for 2 turns equal to 30% of their max HP. And then also places Baby Strengthen for 2 turns. And it books down to a 3-turn cooldown. All in all, not bad. I think this guy would see a lot of play or more play. Mid-game, low-level account. I mean, low-level account, he's going to see a lot of play anyways because his kit's really good for low-level. But for mid-game and going up to end-game with, even like a Faction Wars team, making this Strengthen the big one, oh, man, that would be amazing. This guy would definitely be seeing a lot more play. Is it just me or all the Night Revs always frowning? Just fucking upset. Let's look at his passive. He's immune to fear and true fear debuffs. That's pretty good. It's called Unhinged. I like that. It means he's too crazy to be scared. Whenever an ally HP drops below 50 from an enemy attack, has a 50% chance of placing a fear on the attacker. That's pretty cool. Whenever an ally dies, has a 75% chance of placing true fear debuff on all enemies for 1 turn. That's pretty good. Honestly, pretty good. Passive's pretty good. This is poop. This is alright. We haven't really run into a thing where heal reduction needs to be a thing right now, especially in the end game. And this A1 is just mediocre. All in all, let's see what the community thinks. Community loves him. I mean, he's okay. I wouldn't build one out unless you desperately need him for Faction Wars. Next is going to be Canelia. Boy, I don't know where you're at. Huh. Conellia. Does that sound like an undead to you? Nope. Does it sound like a Shadowkin? Nope. I was going to say yes. No. Conellia. It's not a dwarf, is it? It is! Oh my god. Oh, it's a scary girl. I actually like her. When I did the fusion, that I kind of regret, getting the Hound, Mr. Wormbane. Or was this for Mother Sibel? I think this was this was Mother Sibel fusion. And which I do regret. I mean, she has a bunch of great base stats, but her kit's just kind of meh. But anyways, base speed 109, that's great. She's support champion. Her damage comes from attack. I think she only has 1 damaging ability. It's this A1. Her aura is pretty good, 18% speed in all battles. But let's get in base defense, pretty decent. HP is very good, base. She'll attack an enemy, 40% chance of increasing the cooldown of one of the target skills by 2 turns at random. So, book that up to 50% chance. She could come in against the Eternal Dragon for you to try and put his stuff on cooldown. Piece of the Deep, level 1. 80% chance, books up to 100, placing sleep on all enemies for a turn. The passive is whenever an enemy loses sleep debuff placed by the skill, has a 50% chance of replacing it with a fear for 1 turn. Not bad. That would have been cool if it had been true fear, but it's like she invokes nightmares, right? Like you're having such peaceful sleep, but then you get disturbed, you start waking up, poof, nightmare. I like that. She kind of looks very nightmarish. And then this one, I actually really like this ability. She reminds me of Snorlax from Pokemon. So she'll place a sleep on an ally for a turn and heals that ally by 50% of their max HP and fills their turn meter by 50% whenever the sleep debuff expires or gets removed. Heals the ally by 100% and completely fills their turn meter if the sleep debuff is lost due to taking damage from an enemy. That's nuts, right? So if you set her up in a team for like Doom Tower bosses and somebody's about to die, sleep them. You know they're about to take damage. When that sleep gets taken away from taking that damage hit, they heal back up to full. And then they get a full turn meter. So that's pretty cool. I like her. If I ever get another one of her, I kind of want to build her out. Let's see. Community says she seems to be okay. Yeah, not very good for clan boss because she'll probably mess up speed tuning. And she's single target heals. But I like her. Conellia is pretty good. And then Mast Fearmonger. Mast Fearmonger. Let's see. Showing my raid knowledge now. Nope. Night Rev then. Doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. I said Mast Fearmonger. I saw Miscreant Monster. I'm like, that's it. Still a legendary and an epic skin. Oh, yeah, I know where he's at. Right up here. Right here. Mast Fearmonger. He came out last Halloween. He looks like Jason Voorhees, but he also kind of has this Bloodborne-esque look to him. But you can definitely tell this is like a Jason Voorhees, homage or homage, however you want to say it. Base speed's pretty decent. He's an attack champ. 1300 base attack, not bad. Let's look at this. Nightmare. Attacks an enemy 2 times. Each hit decreases their turn meter by 7.5%. If the target is under fear or true fear. Reduces the cooldown of this champion's Taste of Despair skill by 1 turn if this attack kills an enemy. No way to buff the chance. It really doesn't matter. Next one. Haunted Machete, or Machete. 3 turn cooldown, attacks an enemy, books up to 100% chance of placing fear for a turn, and 100% chance of placing decreased speed. Has a 100% chance of placing true fear on 2 enemies for 1 turn if this attack kills an enemy. That's pretty cool. 1 true fear debuff will be placed on the enemy with the lowest turn meter, while 1 will be placed on one with the highest. It's actually kind of cool. The kit's very interesting. Well-used axe. Attacks 1 enemy, will ignore 35% of the target's defense if the target is under fear, true fear. Places block debuffs for a turn and increase speed buff for 2 turns and revive on death for 2 turns on this champion. This attack kills an enemy. So yeah, he's Jason Voorhees. He is what he is. I think he's cool. He's very cool looking. I think I have one just chilling in the vault, especially now. Dupe system, hello. Get some extra stats out of your guys, make your unkillable teams better, adjust your speeds. Yeah, I like him. Let's look at his passive. Taste of Despair, 6 turn cooldown, books to 4, and then can be reduced by 1 turn if Nightmare kills somebody. Fills his champion's turn meter with 50% whenever an enemy's HP drops below 20%. So as you get weaker, he gets faster. That's scary. He's literally, they did a very well job at this design. But again, would you pull for him? Probably not. And yeah, he's just par. He's par for the course for an epic attack guy. Especially if you need a little CC, a little CC in your Faction Wars teams. Right. But now the piece de resistance. They're going to have a guaranteed champion event at the same time. So while this whole event is active, it looks like it's going to be all weekend. If you pull 30 Void Shards, do you know what you get? Somebody that's still a legendary in an epic skin after her nerf, which thank God it wasn't too bad. If only Urgrim. Rip my boy Urgrim. If only Urgrim got the same treatment. But Madame Serris is literally a legendary. Do not kid yourself. When you hit her, you're like, oh God, another legendary. I've seen people at the very least use 2 for competitive arena for different teams. One goes an immunity set and one ends up being like really fast. I have one that's fast with no immunity set, so she can strip, so I can place provoke or stun or whatever I need to do. But so here's the caveat: you will get Madame Serris after opening 30 Void Shards. Now, if you get her before that, the event goes away. You won't get her, guaranteed to get her at your 30th then if you get her before. Is she worth pulling for? If you do not have a Madame Serris in your very end game, it's a thing that can happen. I got a guy in my clan, Fine Tune Chaos. He doesn't have a Madame. I think he might pull for this or not. I don't know. We still don't know what the abilities are on the Halloween Legendary Fusion. But she's worth it. I think she's worth it. Is Inquisitor Shamael worth it? No, I don't really think so. He's good, but he's not. I should pull my Void Shards out of a ×2. Is Madame better than Leorius the Proud? By far. By far she is. And her A2 can actually hit decently hard. If you build her for crit damage, which is a weird thing to say, but it is a thing. So if you don't have her and you want her, this might be your time to consider to pull her since she is a guaranteed champion. They're essentially giving you a guaranteed Void Legendary at 30 shards. They've never done a guaranteed Void Legendary for shards yet, so we don't know the amount, which they probably don't know the right amount yet. That's why we haven't seen it, because whatever number they choose will probably piss the community off either way. But, I mean, let's just go over ability, shall we? Panic Spread. With her A1, she has a 20% chance of placing a fear for a turn. It increases by 30 if the target is under a debuff. Increases to 45% if they're under 2 or more debuffs. She's awesome. Tricks and Treats. She will attack all enemies. Has a 40, books to 50% chance of stealing 1 random buff from each. And will put block debuffs on your team if she steals it. And she'll put a True Fear instead on anybody she stole the debuff from. Very good. And this is her Pace de Resistance. This used to be, okay, this was crazy. This was on a 4-turn cooldown, but the debuff length would be 3 turns. That's how crazy this used to be. Midnight Ritual. She will remove all buffs from enemies and place them with a 50% decreased attack and a 60% decreased defense. And it will last for 2 turns. That used to last for 3 turns. I used to use her in my dungeon teams when I was farming, because she was great, because my teams would stay alive. She put a decreased attack on them. She removed the defense. My nukers could come in. We just cycle that way, getting up to the boss. Yeah, still an amazing champion. She's very simple. She's like, remember GameCube? She's like a GameCube. Very small, square, has a very one thing to do, And hers is to remove buffs and give you debuffs. To go bait and switch. That's what she's really good at. And then we have Witch's Grace, which is her passive. She'll put a shield on herself equal to 10% of her max hit point. When she's attacked under shield buff, she has a 35% chance of placing a fear on the attacker for a turn. That is awesome. I love Madame Serris. If you don't have a Madame Serris and you think you're going to have enough resources for the fusion event, I say get her. Go ahead and get her. Spend money on her? I don't know if I'd spend money to get another Madame Serris. I have 2 right now. One's built. One's just kind of hanging out. I will end up building her out in an immunity set when I want to go hardcore in the paint for arena. But, get her. You don't have her, especially if you're endgame. I mean, Rion, we all get if we complete the Doom Tower, which I've done for normal. And she's like Madame Serris, but Force Affinity, and does, she has a Revive, and she places block buffs instead of fear. And she has an accuracy aura. I mean, they're both very good. Madame, would argue, is better. But that's just my 2 cents there. But yeah, anyways, guys. So thanks for tuning into the video. I hope you're having a great day. And I'll catch you on the next one. I'm going to put another video later this week. All right. Peace.